Wow, wow, wow. I'm not going to do any of that. That's not why I'm on this stage. Welcome, everybody. Can I hear some noise from you? I know there's not a lot of people in the room, but I want to know that you're still here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third and final day of We Move. If I am looking down at this iPad, I'm not being rude. I just want to make sure I get all the information that I'm meant to get. This is We Move Global Youth Series, Taking Up Space, and that was a really amazing way to kick off the show. Another round of applause for our wonderful performer. Marius Mates is who that is. My name is Cassandra. Welcome. If you are joining in the room, hello. If you are joining somewhere in the world, hello. I don't know what camera I'm meant to look at. I feel like it's that one. Hi. Yes, we're streaming all across the world today, so we are truly international. And this is brought to you by Coventry City of Culture, supported by the British Council. Today's program is about making new and local international connections, experiencing new creative work from dance, as we just saw, music, immersive digital stories, exploring creative careers as well, because I feel like we need to do that. It's not all, office jobs. We have some really creative things that we can do, dancing, music. You're going to see it today. I'm not even going to say any more about that. The role of creativity in cities and supporting better lives for us all. This program has been shaped by 6 young creatives from literally all across the world: Coventry, France, Ghana, Lebanon, so everywhere. And as a result of that, you are going to be hearing from speakers, artists from everywhere, all across the world. We also want to hear your views as well. We want you to be very interactive. If you are joining online, you can get involved throughout the day. We have a hashtag that I'm going to let you know what that is. If you are joining in the room, we want to hear from you as well. So yes, you, all of y'all. That's what we're going to have a Q&As throughout the day as well. So we're going to get your thoughts, your opinions, your questions. Like I said, if you are on YouTube, hi, how you doing? Happy to have you here. If you want to join into the conversation, like I said, there is a hashtag. The hashtag is hashtag We Move GYS. So if you are going to tweet about the day, if you're on Instagram, Twitter, because tweeting, Facebook, can you use hashtags on Facebook? No? Maybe not. TikTok, if you want to make a TikTok, do that. You can hashtag us. We would love that as well. Like I said, hashtag We Move GYS. YouTube comments as well. Do share anything that you love about the day, any inspirations that you have. If you want to, comment on one of the performers or the speakers, or you have a question, you can write them in the YouTube comments. Share your inspiration, your ideas, and through our Miro board as well. Now, I don't know what that is, but I'm sure you will know if you are going to interrupt. This is the Miro board. So yes, you can. Oh, it's here as well. Perfect. Yes, Miro board. Oh, cool. Wow. The world is just so digital nowadays. I'm just like, yeah, this is awesome. But yes, you can interact through that as well. I'd like to welcome our BSL interpreters for the day, Rachel and Maria. So if you do see them here, that is what they are doing. They are interpreting for everyone across the world. They'll just switch and change, so that is what they're going to be doing. And we're going to kick off this afternoon with 2 inspiring change makers. Robert Munuku, he's joining us online from Kenya. I'm not sure if it's going to pop up on the screen, or I don't know. And Rhona Oughton, who is here with us in Coventry. Both Robert and Rhona have been working with the organization In Place of War and are connected with each other through a project called 100 Agents of Change. I'm going to hand over to them so they can tell you all about it. Rhona is here. Robert will come up.
Yeah, I don't know if you can. Oh, yeah, you can. There we go. Wicked. I think there's Robert. Hey, Robert. Nice to see you. Can we hear Robert too? Can we hear you?
Can you hear me? Hi.
Oh, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like to kick us off then?
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, Cassandra, if I got that right. That was a really nice intro. I just maybe we'll start with the role I play at the organization I'm representing currently for this forum. That's In Place of War. And I am a board observer. or advisor for In Place of War, which is basically an organization that interrogates the role of peace, the role of the arts in areas of conflict, and hence the name, In Place of War. And as such, you'd find In Place of War operates in areas that have a lot of crimes, a lot of war, a lot of ethnic conflict, and violence in various forms. And just to quickly get into the main pillars, which you'll see shortly in a reel, in a video reel, the first is cultural spaces. In Place of War tries to work with communities all over the world, changemakers such as myself and my organization, which I'll talk about shortly, by creating spaces where artists, entrepreneurs, basically activists can come together and see what they can do about changing their local situation. The other thing is they work in education and entrepreneurship, and that is a very big part of what some of their change makers do. Just to draw on an example from Uganda, we have Benny, who is a hip hop artist, but they work with bee farming. They have bees, they keep bees, and they sell honey. And this business model actually supports their hip hop work. So that again is an example of the second pillar, which again you'll see shortly. And the last pillar of In Place of War is their artistic collaboration. And perhaps this is the one I've been most privy to, where In Place of War not only creates these cultural spaces or engages with these young entrepreneurs, but kind of creates a platform where they can get to know each other and work together. And I will speak later about a collaborative project, a couple we've done with them. But very quickly, before I hand over to the reel, I'll just mention my organization, or where I work, is Mau Mau Arts. And Mau Mau Arts, we're based in Nairobi, Kenya, where I am right now, I'm speaking from. And we have a two-pronged approach to how we operate. The first is we're a production house. We create content in the visual arts, film, graffiti, music, you name it. So we get commissioned work. But the second thing is, and this is the second part of what we do, we plow back profits from these commissions for our in-house social change work. So for example, we have a number of subsidized masterclasses in the arts. We have a number of community projects. And why we chose this model is so that we do not always rely on external support, because that model is not sustainable. So I think I've covered an overview of what Mau Mau Arts does, what In Place of War does. I think now maybe I will hand back to you, and maybe we could just have the show reel of In Place of War, which actually speaks better than what I've said in the past 5 minutes.
Thank you so much for explaining about Mau Mau Arts Centre. Robert's a real legend, and they're doing some amazing work out there. We're going to get ready a show reel for you, which I think is coming now.
In Place of War at this point in time is our hope. It's basically the only hope we have.
But there it is, In Place of War. We're like, blow, there you go.
What has happened today, it's amazing. It's beyond my expectation.
Having a space where young people can go is key to their future.
People have amazing ideas and they are young and vivacious. I think it's crucial to have such spaces.
The purpose of this course is just to equip the entrepreneurs and people who want to see change in their community to be the people that they want to be.
This whole collaboration was brought together by In Place of War. It's really important, it's really dope.
Life is really difficult for local artists, but In Place of War, we came through with the intention of spreading a good vibe through the name of music.
It matters. It's so massively important in the communities that we work in.
This has been the most amazing journey for me. So a big thank you, and I'm very happy.
Hear me with my freestyle flying high like a kite, only star in the sky.
So Robert is still with us, but we can't see him because we're gonna, oh, we can see you again, that's cool. We're gonna play a slideshow now. But just before I go into how me and Robert know each other, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Rhona. I'm a Romany artist and activist from Bristol. I'm on the board for Big Team, who specialize in making the festival scene more inclusive. So shout out to you, Big Team. And what I mean when I say Romany heritage is I was born into a Romany family. Romany people originated from India, and they left India, North India, between the 6th and the 11th century. And as they moved through from India, they moved across India, they went to Egypt, they were enslaved by the Egyptians, and the Egyptians coined the phrase gypsy. So that's where that word comes from. And I need to slow down a bit. I've been going too fast. So as they did that, they really took their music and their culture with them. And you can really see this within the dance, the music, the language of the Romany chib. You can see the dancing, the Indian dancing then turns into flamenco. Sorry about that. Not very good with this microphone. And so yeah, that's a bit about my heritage. And I was involved with a young leadership program called Rising Arts. Big up to Rising Arts. They're a brilliant organization in Bristol. And through that, I got involved with 100 Agents of Change, which is an art residency hosted by In a Place of War. I'm going to do next slide. Ooh. So it was an online residency that connected artists from around the world with changemakers in the UK to exchange ideas on working with art and social change. And yeah, so on the residency, I kind of learned that I needed to work hyper-locally. I needed to start from where I was, because I knew that where I was, I could create a ripple. And there's all these change makers around the world that are also creating ripples. So in that, maybe we can create a wave. This is, these were digital drawings that were actually made like on facilitation projects. So that was cool as we were, it was live, so yeah. Okay, gonna go back. So during this residency, last year, the Policing and Sentencing Courts Bill that's going into Parliament this year will eradicate nomadic life in Britain forever. Because of my heritage, I knew I had to step up to the plate and do something about it. I have a really strong pull to make positive social change within my community. And the policing bill that's coming into power will give police more power to seize Romany gypsy homes, so caravans taken. They'll also be able to issue fines. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. They can issue fines of £2,500 and imprison those needing to lead a nomadic way of life because of safe, legal stopping places. So obviously, when people get imprisoned, their children go into care, so we've got a big problem on our hands. So I decided to reach out to my contacts, and I've got lots of Romany artists involved in a project to amplify their voices and their perspectives around the policing bill and messages to Priti Patel and Boris Johnson. And they've gone up on billboards around Bristol literally a couple of days ago. So it's exciting stuff, and it really has been a bit of an experiment. So these are some of them. So, yeah, what should I talk about? Raymond Green, this man on the end, he's a Romani activist. He died a couple of years ago. He's a Holocaust survivor. 500,000 Roma people were killed in the Holocaust, and it was really important that we get his name out there. Because it's often left out of the conversation that Romani people were involved with the Holocaust. And here on the right, I have a submission here from Drive to Survive. They're a coalition of Romani gypsies and Irish travellers against Section 4 of the policing bill. And they're campaigning for the freedoms of all people, because this bill won't just affect us, it affects everyone. Even if you think, you know, someone becomes homeless, they have to live in their car, they're going to get a fine. They're going to get a hefty fine, maybe sent to prison. So, yeah, big stuff. And the idea is that we had it in exhibition style, and it's called the Radical Roma Archive. I don't know if I mentioned that. Roma simply means human being in Romani Chip. That's a good ass shot. Didn't realise it was going to be so big, but there we go. That's me putting one up. Yeah, so I'm excited to take some more pictures of them, and it was really good to see them go up. And that's that, but I want to talk to Robert a bit more, especially. He's based in Kenya, and at the moment in Kenya, there's an election on, and I thought that we'd be able to touch upon that. So I don't know if we could get Robert back on the screen. That would be fab. Yeah. Hey, Robert.
Hey. Hi.
So yeah, I just wanted to touch upon, on our last few minutes, I don't know how much, excuse me, water's repeating on me, how much time we've got left. Huh? Plenty of time. Cool. Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to speak about the election in Kenya, and about what the kind of vibe is in where you are.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I guess right now, many people who are outside the country, our country, Kenya, may not be so familiar with our political history, but the more recent history that stretches back to about 30 years back, let's say from around 1990 to about now, every election from that time up till now has been really contested in one way or the other. And sadly, in 2007, we had a really nasty instance of post-election violence, which kind of polarized the country. We are a bit over 45 documented ethnic communities in this country. And obviously, when you have such a rich cocktail of culture and rich mix of varying kind of communities, there'll always be a strive for resources. And sadly, politicians usually use that to polarize the public. So I'm not a prophet of doom, I'm a very optimistic guy, but I think right now it's relevant to talk about the elections because the Kenyan youth population is growing at an increasing rate. What I mean is there are more young people, and by that I mean people who are below the age of 35 are more, and these are the people who form a larger segment of the voting demographic. So yeah, I think right now we hope things go well. I don't foresee anything nasty happening, but what I would really want to just comment on, I guess based on also the session we are in, taking up space as the theme of this session, is just urging young people to organize around the issues they want to address, because many times we delegate that responsibility to those who are already in power. It is their responsibility, but sometimes we disavow our role in holding them accountable. So I think I've said so much about the election, sorry Rhona, but I think the main point is I just encourage young people, not just at home, but everywhere, even in Coventry and all over the world, to take ownership of the political process.
Amazing, thanks Robert. I thought we had to touch upon that because we were saying before, you were saying to me, Robert, that you can't have a conversation at the moment in Kenya without talking about the election. So I really wanted to touch on that, thank you. And yeah, I think to disrupt systems of oppression, we have to bring more young people into the picture and lead. And that's what the Billboard project was about. The Radical Roma Archive was disrupting systems of oppression. The site that it's based on, behind it, used to be a traveller site. So it's literally bringing, I hope, it's literally bringing perspectives and voices into the foreground, so from the landscape out. So it's kind of like reconnecting a space that your ancestors once existed on. So it was a bit of an experiment, but I hope to go further with it.
And Rhona, maybe I just had a question. Like you mentioned, I'm sorry, I lost the name. The activist you just showed on the screen, a Romani activist. What was his name?
I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but it's Raymond Green. And he died a couple of years ago. He's a Holocaust survivor. His family were part of a Sinti, which is another word for Romani, family. They were circus performers, and they had a traveling cinema. An amazing man. So it's really important that his message is spread, and we carry on flying the flag for him and all the other activists and all the other ancestors that have put us in our place today. And the artist, Anna Rabko, she designed the poster, and in total I had 10 Romani artists involved. So yeah, it's good. It was good. I felt like we were stronger together because they're in a sequence along a road in Bristol. So it had that kind of outside gallery feel, I hope. But yeah, yeah, that's
nice.
him. And I don't know if anyone in the audience has any questions for either myself or Robert. Yes. Yeah, do you want? Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. So my question, my name is Demi, by the way, Demi Joseph. I'm a poet, architectural technology student. I believe that it takes collaboration to shift the paradigms around the globe, for the future. So my question is, what does the future look like in regards to incorporating activism into art as well as, politics and geopolitics? How can we merge the different fields and actually collaborate with those who we sometimes, complain about or say, oh, they're not doing this, they should do this? How do we look at the future and how do we collaborate so that we enter these spaces? Because some people might be like, oh, the youth need this. But are the youth in the room to consult them and say, hey guys, this is what's going on at home, this is what's going on with our families and our communities? So yeah, my question is, to just put into one sentence, how do we form the future that we wish to envision And how do we do it in an impactful yet sustainable way? Not where it lasts 10 years and then it's back to square one. You know what I mean?
Would you like to go first, Robert, and answer that? It's a juicy question, Demi. Juicy.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yes. Yeah, sure. I don't know if I'm audible enough. Am I? Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Well, I'll just start by saying what the American singer once said, Nina Simone. She once said that an artist's role is to reflect the times. How can you be an artist if you do not reflect the times? That's quote, unquote, Nina Simone. And what I understood by Nina Simone's words is that artists, like any other person, let alone artists, doctors, engineers, you name it, we all have a responsibility to use our craft to effect social change. About sustainability, before you get to that, I believe that we need to be willing. Because if you're not willing to do something, you will not engage in it. Most artists, even here in Kenya, especially the few who have really achieved success, tend to shy away from activism because they feel that it may damage the commercial value of their artistry, which is true to some extent, because obviously some brands who employ these artists may not want to be associated with activism or for example, government sentiments, or may not want to criticize the government, especially in the case where certain corporations are in partnership with the government. So these are but a taste of the complexities that come with being an artist who uses his or her craft for social commentary, or if you want, for activism. And not to say too much, but I'll throw it back to Rhona. We had this conversation with Rhona a couple of days ago where I said that the biggest mistake with artists and activists, even here at home, is we seem to be in echo chambers. And I hope that's not the case in this particular session, because we say the same things, but we say it to the people who believe in the same thing. So I'm telling you who believes there should be sustainability, that there should be sustainability, and you tell me that there should be sustainability, but the stakeholders who could make that happen with us are not in the room. And that's the next point. I mean, do we have stakeholders working with the artists, working with the activists to effect the same change? And as I hand over to Rhona, maybe you could also tell us with your billboard campaign and your fight, quote unquote, against this injurious legislation. Do you have, say, forums where you invite some of these MPs, the members of parliament, or some of the legislators, or some of the community members? Because then you would avoid what I call echo chambers. Same people, same ideas, but have no path to effecting the change they want to see.
Yeah, I think it's such a juicy question. This is an exciting one. I wish I could go in even more. Yeah, amazing, amazing. I think we have to challenge authority as much as we can in a healthy and productive way. And if we can do that with design, even better, because there's designs being used to facilitate oppression and ingrain forms of structural inequality. So if we can go against that and then bring art into the streets and design into the streets, then we could have cities and spaces that are more reflective of the people within them. Sorry, did you say something to talk about the project?
Yes, like with regard to the question asked, he asked something about sustainability, and it made me think that with the project you're doing with the billboards, do you have some of the stakeholders on the other side of the fence involved in your campaign? For example, have you reached out to some of the members of parliament pushing for this legislation? Do they know that you are against it? And what steps are you making to ensure that you're having an inclusive process?
Yeah, so basically, I've got the designs, and then we're going to print them on postcards. And on the postcards is legal advice for people in crisis, basically. And the advice on there has been collected from charities that are involved with politics. So that's our route in, basically. So we're having these conversations together to see how that we can drive politics into what we're doing and spread to more people. And I think what's good about having something like an outdoor gallery is that I can print things again, I can take them to other places, so I can spread and hopefully make the ripple effect that we want to see. Yeah. I think our time's up now, but thank you so much for listening, and thanks, Robert, for tuning in from Kenya. I wish you were here today. And yeah, thank you very much, and thanks to everyone putting this on, and cheers. I'd love to meet you all, by the way, so hopefully meet you later.
Yeah, no, thank you, thank you. Another round of applause for Rhona and Robert. If you do have any more questions, I'm sure you can write them in the YouTube comments. I'm pretty sure, like Rhona says, she'll love to meet you. Maybe grab her after the event and ask her what you want to ask her. So we are going to keep it moving. That was a really interesting, fascinating way to start the whole of the day. Really, really great work that they're both doing. We're going to move on to a panel now. The panel is called Making It Happen, Creative Roles Behind the Scene. We just need to switch up the stage a little bit. So is that me doing that? Do I have to do the no? Okay. I'm going to just, talk. How are we all finding it so far? Thank you, sir. Good? Good. Where is everyone from? Let's start over here. Hello. Coventry. Do you like living here? You do now? Say that again. Oh, why? Uh-huh. You know, that's a common thing. When you live in a city, you actually don't like the city. And when you get older, you're like, you know what, it's not that bad. I'm from Birmingham, and I did exactly the same. I moved all the way to London, I moved to Spain, I moved to Coventry, I moved everywhere. Then I came back, and I was like, it's not that bad. Like, it's not terrible. Are we ready? Is the stage set? Lovely. So this panel, like I said, is called Making It Happen. Thank you very much. Lovely. Creative roles behind the scenes, and I'm going to introduce the wonderful Tam Kaur, who is going to be your host for the panel. I believe this is yours.
How are we doing today? We're doing good? Yes? Amazing. And also, I know we can't see them, but there's people watching online, so I hope you're doing really well as well. So, my name's Tam. I work for Coventry City of Culture Trust. I help coordinate a wonderful leadership program with amazing creatives around the city. And you're asking, why is she telling me all of this? Like, we don't care who she is, we care who the panelists are. Well, that's because the theme of this panel is really looking into what goes in behind the scenes. Who are the people that really make things work for our artists, for our performers, for the people that you might see more on stage and in the media, in the limelight? What goes behind that? And actually, what are some of the careers that maybe you could do or that you might be interested in going into based on what we might hear today? So I'm going to take a seat and I'm going to welcome some of our panelists. Have we got all of our panelists here today? Just give me a wave, give me a nod. I think they're coming in. Yeah, brilliant. So can we have you all on stage? And I'll do instructions when everyone's on stage. Brilliant. Thank you all. And I'm going to take a seat as well. Brilliant. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, we've got everyone. Let me just count my numbers. Definitely. So, I'm going to begin by just introducing who's here on stage with us. And also, you might see that we have a remote participant, the lovely Lesley. Give us a wave, Lesley. Oh, she's already done that. She's way ahead of me. And so you can see her on a screen, we can see her here, and we can also see the lovely panelists on stage with us today. And I'm going to be asking everyone some questions. So, on stage we've got Marius. So Marius, can you give everyone a wave? Brilliant. We've got the lovely Dylan. We've got Coolie. And we've got Erin. And you've all met Lesley, who's here. So, I'm going to start off by doing some instructions to the panelists and then passing over one by one to them to tell us a little bit about their journeys, their career trajectories that have sort of brought them where they are today. So I wanted to start off with Lesley. So you're going first, sorry.
All right.
Brilliant. So Lesley Ann, she is an amazing creative. She's a producer, she's an educator, she's a storyteller. And she works between the intersection of culture, education, the arts, and she's done that for more than a decade. So she's created some amazing productions that have amassed millions and millions of views across multiple streaming services, from Canada to Ghana to Jamaica to Trinidad and Tobago, and more. What she describes as her superpowers are bringing culturally compelling ideas to life and revealing the extraordinary in the ordinary. She's a strong advocate for the fusion of art and entrepreneurship to enable sustainable development for the Caribbean. She's designed and developed a diverse portfolio of creative projects, and they are all community-based. She's created international exchanges, live events, corporate comms, and more. She's also the CEO of Anubis Communications, which is an agency servicing contractors and socially conscious brands. She's also the co-founder and managing director of Manifesto Jamaica, which is an innovative NGO leveraging the arts and culture to teach adaptive 21st century skills. Have I quite covered it, Lesley?
More than covered it, Tom.
Brilliant,
Thank you for the gracious introduction.
So talk us through that. Talk us through what's kind of led you to where you are in a brief couple of minutes about your career journey.
I will call it a healthy dose of grace. That's what's guided me along my way. I started out as a psychology major in university. I'll pick up there. So I majored in psychology and Spanish. Knew immediately that I did not necessarily want a clinical profession, a counseling profession, but I have an insatiable curiosity about people, culture, the way we live, the way we function, the way we experience life. So that was the drive for the psychology major. I did take some film production classes in college. That was what kind of started leading me into the path of media, and an invitation from my auntie Maxine to work on a Warner Brothers feature one summer was what really grounded my interest in the world of media and communications. From there, I did time at an advertising agency and have been working mostly as an independent freelance contractor, doing everything from stage productions to corporate consulting for marketing and various communications campaigns in different sectors, NGO and corporate. So that's the summary of how I've bobbed and weaved my way up to this point, and it's been pure grace, always just following my interests, my passion, and really going where the fun was for me.
Thank you so much, Lesley, and we'll come back to you with some questions touching on that. Next, I'm going to introduce Marius. So Marius is a dancer who has over 15 years of experience. He's also a Coventry resident who came and established himself in Coventry back in 2020. His background, he's originally from Romania and has experience in theatre productions, delivery, and some amazing and captivating performances. And he also does breaking and hip-hop competitions, not just here, but worldwide. He also has a master's degree from Coventry University in events management, so has a really interesting career trajectory. And he's been able to, create an amazing event called Uprise, which was part of the NAS Festival. Some of the projects that he's been involved with include Traum, which is a production created in collaboration with Theatre Absolute that's based here in Coventry as well, and it's all supported by Attenborough Art Centre and DIDA. He's created a theatre produced by C. Rawlinson and performed in Leicester Theatre, as well as being commissioned for Fringe Festival and the V&A. So an amazing set of accomplishments and events and projects that you've done, and surely more than we can fit in here. But yeah, just again, like Lesley, talk us through that and talk us through a little bit about your career journey.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, like you've mentioned, you know, I come from a hip-hop background, breaking specifically. My journey started in my room when I was 15 years old. I was inspired by by another classmate of mine. He just did like a move in the classroom in the break, and I was like, oh wow, that's so cool. Like, how do you do that? I want to learn that. And basically went back home, you know, and watched loads of videos and just started breaking in my room because I was very like intrigued about this dance form and like the way the body can move in that style and in that form. So I just started in my room. I was really passionate. I have to say my neighbors weren't happy about me dancing and hopping around my room. But then I started going around and I met more people that performed this dance and this art form, and then I joined like what is called a crew, but it's realistically a dance team. And I started creating shows for the arts culture organization in my hometown in Bacău, in Romania. And then when I was 18, I came to UK and I decided to carry on with my art form, with breaking. I came here to study, but then I joined the breakdance society here, and I saw people were training every day, and there was a lot of opportunities, more than there were in my country. So I decided to travel to competitions and attending workshops, and I've tried to learn as much as I can about this culture, because I love the community, I love how people are and how diverse and inclusive everything is. Which was very different from what I call the real life, you know, like going to university and, you know, having to find yourself within a society, whereas that community was so giving and so receiving. So I just wanted to do that forever, and I promised myself that I would never stop this dance because it helped me through a lot of different situations. So then I carried on, I went to university, I started doing competitions, I started getting better, I started meeting people within the art sector, and one of my friends, Marceau, or Michael Riviere, he asked me like, we were part of the same crew, so he asked me like, oh, would you be interested in doing theater, because the way you move is really interesting and would be really good to show it on a stage. So we started working with an orchestra in London, Orchestra Aurora. So you can imagine, like, you know, working with an orchestra and mixing breaking with that is completely like different. Like, how does that fit in? But it worked really well. And then we worked with a violinist and a contemporary dancer and mixing it with breaking. And I realized, like, wow, this is amazing. Like, you can break in those sort of environments and you can create something special for people. And then I just carried on within my theater career, and then I was attending events across the world, and I wanted to give back to Coventry, and I wanted to give back by creating my own event, and that's when I created Uprise as part of NAS Festival. I basically found a sponsor, and then NAS Festival wanted to take us on because it was an event around extreme sport, and Tony Hawk was there and other big names. So then we've organized this event, and literally with the littlest of knowledge that I had at that time, I managed to put together this event with the help of my sponsor and other people. Was very challenging, but then, yeah, I just fell in love with all these opportunities that I had within breaking and, seeing where that can go. So, and then I opened my own company as well, break dots, which is connecting the dots through breaking. That I started in 2019. And here I am today.
Thank you. So as you can see, Marius has definitely had a career not only as an artist on the stage, but behind the scenes, making things happen. So I'm sure that we'll go, again, more into that. If we could just, pass along the mics. Brilliant. So I'm going to introduce next Dylan. So Dylan was born in Congo, but raised in Coventry from the age of 6. He's also known as D9, if I've got that correct. Brilliant. He's an artist manager, and he manages a bunch of different artists from Coventry. Some of them you might be familiar with, and some producers that are on the stage here with us. So Dylan actually manages Coolie as well, and he's been part of some great stories, such as artists such as J1, and he's also managing a local up-and-coming artist called Junior NRB, and hopefully he'll be the next name of Carve, the next name we'll hear more about. So a big shout out there for the work that you're doing. And he actually started off his career in the music business as Jay's tour manager. So he built his network, he worked to different cities, went to different cities, all across UK and Europe, and he handles things like booking, so festivals that we might know of, such as Wireless or Parklife or our very own Godiva Festival in Coventry. And he also does a lot of management in the early stages of people's career. So, you've wanted to go into the management side a little bit more, and you've given up tour managing to fully focus on Coolie's career, so that's been an interesting jump for you. And might you say you've achieved a great level of success in doing that. So he's done that, but he's also went on to give Parsalou his first major release in Demolai. So he's been able to build up a big network, a big social presence, and being part of many artists' success stories. And he's done that all behind the scenes. And he also managed to land Coolie, his first big international collab with French artist Dinor. Am I saying that correct? Brilliant. And I'm going to stop doing the talking and let Dylan do some of the talking. Tell us a little bit about that journey and how you've landed here today.
So I started off 4 years ago as Jay's tour manager. Jay's actually my best friend, funny enough. So in 2018, I was, out of our friendship group, I was kind of the only one that was driving. So I used to take him everywhere, all his shows and stuff. So I didn't really know what I was doing, but I know I was doing some kind of role. So only afterwards I found out I was actually tour managing, dealing with the bookings, eventually got put in touch with his booking agent, handling things with him as well. I was doing that for about 2 years, and then late 2019, that's when I started managing Coolie. Coolie's here, a producer who's been a big part of Jay's success as well, and past success as well. And I've been doing that from then till now, and still doing that now. I manage a local artist called Junior NRB as well, who's up and coming still, but we're working on getting him to that next level as well. But that's a bit about what I do. Pretty much covered everything.
Brilliant. Thank you. And I really do want to explore your journey in a little while about getting to that and about getting to where you are and your accomplishments. So thank you so much, Dylan. If you could pass over to Coolie for me. Brilliant. So Coolie is born and raised in Coventry, actually, and actually most of you from Coventry or have been here for quite a while, but also work internationally as well. So we've definitely got that mix of local and global. And he's a UK music producer. So with Coolie, he's been able to really cultivate a vibrant rap scene within this city, and he's produced some top-tier artists. He started out producing J1's biggest selling, Your Missus, and which received the first UK chart top 20 single to come out of the city since The Enemy. And it really gained some support from prominent figures all around the globe. And he's, He's been able to produce other singles with J1 as well, called Becky, which again, many of you may know of, and that really propelled his name onto billboards. And he then went on to executively produce J1's first album, One Wave, which again was a top 30 UK chart position. So again, a whole list of accolades that he's been able to do. And he went on to then produce another Rap Prodigy's singles, Parsloo. So his first major label release, Coolie worked on, and that went on to be, placed on shows such as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's show, Ballers on HBO. So again, it's really travelled the work that he has done, and that's garnered, the support of the likes of Georgia Smith, Maya Jama, and a whole host of other people. So we really owe him a lot of debt to these kind of like blossoming rap careers that we see. And again, these are people that you might not necessarily know of immediately, but when you look behind the scenes, these are sort of people putting in the work and making things happen. And he's gone on to produce his own artist-producer track called Kisan. And again, that's really close to my heart as well. And that's when I first found out about you, Coolie. And that's really about the farmer struggles in India. And I'm not going to talk too much about that, and I'll let you go into that a little bit more. And that's featured loads of people, including J1, Jazz Dami, Taina, Thames, Jay Fado, and UK Drill powerhouse producer Hargo, and reached number 2 in both the official UK Asian charts and the official UK Punjabi charts. So no mean feat at all. So over to you, Coolie.
So, I started out doing music. I moved to London, and I lived there for a few years. And I was just knocking on the door there, trying to get my career started. And I had no luck whatsoever. And it wasn't until I moved back to Coventry and I took a Prince's Trust loan and I opened up my own studio in Fargo Village in a shipping container. And then randomly in 2018 in October, I just bumped into Dylan and J1, who were they were in the car park near my studio, and I just said, I've got a studio here. Like, you need to come in and work with me right now. To which they did. And from there, we formed a very tight working relationship. And only just a month later, I produced Jay's hit, Becky, which kind of propelled him onto billboards and kind of blew him up to some extent. And then from there, we had the track Your Misses, which came out in 2019 March. Which was the track that launched him into the UK official charts. And then from there, we produced his album. I executively produced his album, which then reached into the charts again in the album charts. And then from there, Parsloo was coming up at the time. And the label he was with Warner Music, they reached out to me and said, we like what you're doing here. Can you do something for Par? So I did his first major release, Demalai, which kind of took off and then got synced to the rock show Ballers, as mentioned, and got quite a bit of critical acclaim, which is quite good. And then from there, I decided that, firstly, I went out to work with a load of artists, and we tried to branch out to connect with Europe, which is where I worked with French rapper Dinor, which Dylan sorted out. And then from there, I decided I wanted to go into a more producer-artist kind of role. And just so happens at the time, my background is I'm a Punjabi, and our community in India are majorly a farming state and a farming community. So if you know about the Indian farmers' protest, that was very much to do with my community and the people back in the homeland of my family. And so it resonated with me a lot. So I decided I want to, as Punjabis and Indians, we know what's going on in India, but I don't know if people outside of our community know. So I wanted to make a UK drill song, fusing drill with Punjabi music to highlight what was going on in India and have people outside of my community learn about it and then speak about it on a track to try and give more insight to people outside of the community as to what was going on in India. So yeah, fast forward to where we are today. I did the launch for the UK City of Culture last year, where we did a collaboration with George Eliot's words, and I put it over a kind of like a UK drill anthem beat, but I've fused in some classical music to try and get some cinematic feel to it. And I just wanted to try and do as much justice to the city as I could. So that's where I'm at the moment. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Coolie. And yeah, I did hear that work, and yeah, it was brilliant. So thank you for sharing your journey so far. And then last but not least in terms of introductions, is Erin, the lovely Erin. So Erin is a Coventry-based music publicist, and she's a radio plugger at Someone Great PR. She also works on live music events, and she works in the industry promoting shows, booking artists, producing festivals, and managing a lot of artist liaison teams as well. And she's done this for events such as the Dealophonic Festival, Green Man Festival, Godiva again, and many, many more, I'm sure. She's also worked in-house in an organisation for an international label, Tin Angel Records. And it's imprints Unheard of Hope and Meat Machine. So she's toured with a variety of artists as well and managed their PR, their marketing campaigns, and she's done that over the last 5 years and made a very great career for herself. So Erin, please do introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey.
Thank you. Yeah, what an impressive panel as well. It's kind of a bit scary going last after hearing the careers of them. So I have always loved music and wanted to work in it, but wasn't really sure what role. Like, I can't play anything. I'm not very talented in that. So, but I wanted to be involved in some way because music had such a big impact on my life. Just, you know, some of the happiest moments for me have been like in a festival with my friends and stuff. So I wanted to be involved in some way. But how I got into it, so I went to Cardiff Uni and I was studying media, and I was heavily involved in the local music scene and the student media teams, but that was all kind of like voluntary. It was just kind of like a hobby and a bit of fun. I didn't think it could be a career. And then when I was just graduating, I got an internship at Green Man Festival, which is a great music festival in Wales. And I got to work on site there for like a month or two, like seeing the festival, you know, go from just being a field to like this crazy weekend where people are having fun and showcasing their music and stuff like that. So that was kind of the moment where I thought, oh, actually, there probably are a few jobs that I could get stuck into. And that's when I kind of knew, oh, I want to be involved in the music industry, helping artists and creating cool stuff. But then, obviously, when you finish uni, it's a little bit scary. You have to go back to your hometown, especially if you don't have a lot of funding and savings behind you. You have to go home, move back in with your parents, and it's like, oh, well, I'm in Coventry. I don't really know how I'm going to be able to build this career here. So I had to work at a call centre and just like a pub while I was doing that. But then I started to volunteer a lot with the local cultural communities. I was getting involved in like the music venues, festivals. And at the early stages, it was just like voluntary work. But I started to meet loads of people and network, which then brought me to get a job at the record label. So it was a Coventry-based label, and I met the manager just when I was working at a festival. And I just said, oh, if you need any help, let me know. And then I ended up getting a job there, learning everything on the job. I didn't have any qualifications to do with like PR or marketing or like music management, tour management, anything like that. So I learned on the job, and after a couple of years, I became head of PR and marketing. So I got to tour all over the world and manage many campaigns for albums and artists from like Canada, Mexico, Kenya, Australia. So that was really fun. And then I also worked on production teams at festivals like Godiva, artist liaison teams. And I managed to gain enough experience and make enough contacts to now go freelance, which I've only done in January. So that's why I'm now freelancing as a music publicist and radio plugger and festival producer. So yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's really interesting, actually,
Nice.
Where you've been able to sort of navigate that I'm interested in this field, but I don't quite know what it is, and I'm still a creative and I want to get involved. So it really goes to show just, if we just see the range of different behind the scenes careers and projects that you can work on. So I'm going to go into our Q&A portion of the panel. So I'm going to start with you, Lesley. And so Lesley, I really want to ask you about kind of any examples of projects that you've worked on behind the scenes, and really going into the specifics, because often we hear, oh, I did this, I did that, I did the other, but what does it actually involve? What is the grind? What is the day-to-day of that project? If you could, for a few minutes, walk us through that.
All right, sure. So first of all, I never got to big up the youths in the audience, in the room and online. Woo! So big up yourself. Greetings. Grateful to have the opportunity to reason with you. So I think the one I will pick on is the one that's probably most applicable in this context. It was a participatory theatre arts and parkour project called Run Free. An NGO I co-founded, Manifesto Jamaica, worked on this project in collaboration with the British Council and National Theatre of Scotland over a 4-year period. And that project went through several different iterations. First, we started out with a training component. Then we moved to developing a theatre production, so writing, staging it, producing it essentially. And then we produced a documentary that chronicled the entire experience from inception to when we ultimately traveled to Glasgow, Scotland to perform the piece. My role within that's one of my favorite projects, because it's one of the few occasions I had to exercise the full range, depth and breadth of my skill set. It started out with ideation, a meeting between the prospective partners to assess, is this something relevant? Is it something the community wants? What could it look like? Once you move from ideation, you get into consulting to refine the ideas you discuss in a meeting room, with the people who will be directly affected by the plans you're making. So once you move from ideation, there's a consultative process to give shape and body to what it is you're intending to do. Then you move into your project management brain, which is where you start writing timelines, you craft budgets, you basically assess all of the resources you'll need to get to the end of the road. Once you move out of your pre-production or your planning phase, then you're into your team building and mobilization, where you're gathering the people. You already have the resources in place, hopefully, or you're in the process of getting them in place and engaging all of the stakeholders you'll need to support you. Our work is big group work, like network work, heavily dependent on people and teamwork. Once you have your team, your resources in place, then you're executing, doing what you said you're going to do. So that's when the project manager is also essential. Are we on time? Are we on budget? Are we doing what we said we were going to do in the way we're going to do it? Oh, we've encountered some issues. How will we adjust to correct for these, speed bumps we're encountering? My production brain, so there's a project management brain, then there was the audio-visual producer brain, because once we got to the documentary part of it now, there is a script to write. You've done the stage production, but producing a theater piece is very different than producing something for the screen. So there's a completely different skill set at work there. That's your digital storytelling portfolio. And then when it's all said and done, you need to report, monitor, evaluate, account for what you've done, account for how the money's been spent, assess whether or not you've achieved your outcomes. If so, how? If not, why? So that's a very truncated explanation of a very intensive and extensive process, and I hope I was able to be clear. But one of the things I really love about the field of arts, culture, making it happen, is that it gives you permission to exercise different skill sets, exercise different superpowers, all with a vision of creating something that will move people, And that's one thing about this work that I really, really enjoy.
Thank you. And that was actually my second question to you, is like, what part of it do you most enjoy? And you've answered that perfectly. And it really, you know, what's highlighted to me is that you've kind of walked us through this process, and you get to be involved in so many different aspects of it, and you get to really be in depth with different areas. And there's something that everyone can sort of do, you know, even if you might not consider yourself a creative as such. I'm pretty sure that you could probably write a report or do the numbers or go in to speak to people about ideas. So you've really highlighted so many different opportunities for people. So thank you so much, Lesley.
Thank you.
I'm going to ask a similar question actually to Dylan, because I found some synergies in terms of what, you know, Lesley was talking about and what you do sort of behind the scenes. So again, like, tell us about, you know, something that you've worked on for an artist, or even for Coolie behind the scenes, and sort of what that involves in your day-to-day.
I think an example I can give was when we were putting together the Kassan track. So I think the most challenging parts about that was having a lot of artists drop out, maybe because they haven't heard of Coolie, or Coolie's still on that journey to get to that level. So a lot of people just overlooked that. They were dropping out. And just dealing with that and finding someone to replace them, and just knowing that that's okay. Do you get what I mean? Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, if it wasn't for I'm trying to word it perfectly. So I'm trying to word it like how, yeah, like, it's not always gonna go the way that you want it to go, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And we found a lot of difficulties and challenges in finding other people. I'd say that's one of the main challenges I find, not just with Coolie, but with other artists that I'm trying to develop.
How do you do that? Like, how do you, like, what, you know, you've had these sort of moments where it's hard and people aren't on board. So how do you, like, get people on board? Is it literally just like calling people up, or
I feel
texting
like,
their managers, and you know?
I feel like I've built a good network for myself, especially in the early stages of my career. Being around Jay and being around all these different artists and producers, I've managed to build a good enough network for myself to be able to call these people or call their managers and pull in favors, and basically just calling people up and calling up who I know or their managers, basically,
So a lot of networking, a lot of making sure you're nice to people as well.
I feel like in this game especially, your network is definitely your net worth. So the more people you can connect with and build a relationship with organically, that will definitely help you in the long run. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So yeah, that's really interesting about kind of like networking and like building kind of like your career in that way and helping build other people's career because of that. So I'm gonna go over to Marius next. And I really want to sort of ask you a little bit of a different question. And it's really about kind of, as you've worked in, you know, this industry, but also in kind of other industries as part of that, is there any sort of help or support that you'd like to see more readily available for people, you know, wanting to come into this career, or something that you wish you'd had as you were navigating this landscape?
Yeah, of course. I feel like throughout my career, like I've learned so much from losing battles rather than winning them. And that's what got me where I am today. And just throwing myself in challenging and uncomfortable situations, I think like that's where I've learned from the most. But to answer your question, I think it's really important that you put yourself out there and you try and speak to as many people as possible and kind of be open-minded with your art form. Because if I would have just kept within the breaking industry and just doing events, you know, I don't think I would have learned so much about how breaking fits in within other industries and how those connections can be built. And, you know, from an educational perspective as well, I've realized that people don't know much about my art form, because when you stick to it, you think like, yeah, everyone knows about this, like everyone have seen it somewhere, but it's not entirely true. And I think we need to, if our art form is so niche, I think we need to get out there and explain it to people, and that's when they will see something within it that, you know, collaboration, or it's like, oh, I can actually use breaking within my event, or we can collaborate on working with your community and with your network, and then you build something special. At the end of the day, you build something unique, and that's what I feel like it is about nowadays, is creating unique collaborations and creating like special projects. But I feel like, yeah, my initial journey started by not knowing, throwing myself out there and just see what happens and see what can be built. The worst thing that happens, you're just gonna learn a few lessons that are gonna propel you forwards. But if I had a mentor from the beginning, you know, I would have probably skipped a lot of the steps that I had to go through and a lot of the hassles I had to go through the years, because, you know, it's always good to have that mentorship and that outside eye that's, you know, telling you like, hey man, you know, don't do that, or try and go this route, or, you know, try and do more of that, because by yourself you can't really see what your strengths and weaknesses are until, you know, later on, until you go through that situation. Whereas if you have someone from behind you, it's like, look, this is your strength. I've seen your journey. Like, this is what you're best in. You know, try and focus on that, or try and build it this way. But it took me like 17 years to understand many of the lessons that I could have probably had in 1 year, or like, you know. So yeah.
But that's why you're here with us today, just telling us all of the lessons that you've learned. And actually, I've kind of, in that you were like networking and learning, and Dylan was like, you just got to call people up and you've got to talk to people. And it's basically the same thing, is that you've got to like get people on board, you've got to be able to engage, and you've got to be able to ask for help as well. Like your whole thing about mentoring, like, you know, being able to get that is such a big piece of advice for people. So thank you.
No worries.
Brilliant. So I'm going to pass over back to Erin, actually, if we can, you know, share the mic over there. And for you as well, what for you, Erin, do you love of being behind the scenes, of like making that work happen? What makes you feel like, yeah, this is where I want to be? And what's kind of like the value in that?
Yeah, I think working behind the scenes in the creative industry is really rewarding, because life is pretty tough and it can be quite depressing. So being involved in that part that brings like some joy and some happiness, like people let loose, go into a festival or go into a gig, or like, I don't know, if they're sad, they'll go and listen to their favorite song, or they'll dwell in the sadness and listen to a sad song and like get it all out. And I think having that kind of, and it's the same with theatre and art and stuff, having those outlets just kind of it gets you through life a little bit. So to be a part of that and building those like really exciting, fun aspects of life, I find is really important to me, and helping emerging artists get their work out there, whether it's bringing them to a stage and to an audience, or like helping them get their music, you know, on Radio 1 or in the magazines and stuff like that. I feel, yeah, just bringing that creativity to a community where people are coming together and enjoying it collectively is just kind of a nice feeling. Like, I feel like we all support each other in that sense, you know, when we come together to have fun. I think it's a good thing.
I guess that's why we do what we do, is just to see that joy on people's faces, or when they're, like you said, when they're listening to something, or if it's, you know, projects that Lesley's putting on, if they're like experiencing the benefits of that, or watching, you know, Marius perform, or you're seeing someone that you know, support excel. It's really about those smiles on those faces. And I saw Coolie nodding a lot when you were talking about music and the joy and everything that it brings. So if we can pass over to Coolie, because my next question to him is really, you know, kind of why you do what you do, and a piece of advice you'd give to someone else looking to do what you do.
So, it's weird because at first, like, I actually started off going to drama school. So I originally wanted to be an actor. And I always had a passion for music. And then I just suddenly found myself falling into it. And as I fell into it, I just got more and more into it. It just awakened my passion even more. And I think I do it because, number one, I've loved music since I was a kid. Like, my parents had so many sick vinyls. Like, their vinyl collection was good. It was good, and it was eclectic as well, from like rock to reggae to my brother's vinyl collection would add to that into hip hop and all of that. And so, like, I was always surrounded by music, and I love music, and I think that's why I do what I do. But also, for me, I have another side to me where I have a bit of a political side, and I like to look at what's going on in the world and see what's going on, and see how, if I can get into a position of like strength in a commercial mainstream sense, I can then take that light and use it in a way to address and expose something that's going on. Hence why I did the farmers protesting, you know? So that's one of the main reasons. For me, right now, one of my biggest whys is get to the highest place I can get and do something mad to change something in the world. That's one of my biggest whys right now. So that's what motivates me. And what was the second part of the question?
Yeah, I mean, you might have had, it's like the advice that you'd give to someone wanting to do what you do.
Yeah, so advice I give is, like, if you look at where I'm saying with my journey that I started off wanting to do acting and this and that, like, don't be closed off to anything. Keep yourself so open to anything. Just like, I don't know if you've seen that movie, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey. It's a funny movie, but it actually has some relevance to real life. Like, if you're always saying no, you don't know what opportunities that God is trying to give to you that you're closing off. So just stay open. That's one of my biggest pieces of advice. And also grind. And don't worry about having a second job. Have that second job to fund what else you're doing. You know, even when I had a top 20 hit with J1, I was still working part-time in the Herbert Art Gallery. I was still putting in work elsewhere to make ends meet at the end of the day. So, and don't be afraid to go that extra mile. I mean, I was doing shifts where I'll be in the studio with Jay till 6, 7 a.m. and then I'll go to work and walk to the Herbert Art Gallery and start at 8 a.m. and I wouldn't have sleep for like 20 hours. But be ready for that. Find something you're so passionate about that you're ready to grind on that level. That's what's going to take you there. That's my advice.
Thank you. Great advice. As you can see from the reaction to the audience, that really hits home. And I think I also saw Lesley doing some clicking and be really enthusiastic about some of the comments that you made. And is that also why you do what you do, Lesley? Like, what is it about that finds kind of, you can find within your own work and what you do based on what Coolie said?
I hold the arts in the highest regard because it is one of the few phenomena we experience as human beings that allow us not only some reprieve from our lived reality, but it gives us space to be and become things we are not in our everyday lives. And I feel like that kind of space for your imagination to play and your spirit to thrive is critical to our lived experience as human beings, and something that we often find ourselves indulging in on a very superficial level, with a drive to just be seen. So when Coolie spoke about wanting to ascend to the highest levels of visibility in order to elevate issues, conversations, realities that we have the luxury of, at least some of us have the luxury of shying away from often, it really, really, really resonates, because I hold the arts in the highest regard for this precise reason. And I love an artist who in it for something other than their own fame and glory.
Oh, brilliant, thank you. Well, I think that's a brilliant note, as the audience had such a reaction to what we've said, is to pass over to all of you. So we're going to do a quick Q&A. We don't have that much time, but we do have 5 to 10 minutes or so. So if you've got a question, just put your hand up and then say who you're directing it to, and the mic will come over to you. So we've got one here and then the next one there afterwards.
Thank you. My name is Michael. My question's for Coolie. What would you say is one of the hardest things that you had to overcome throughout this journey? Because obviously, getting in the creative industry and that, you were saying days with 20 hours, no sleep. But what would you say is one of the hardest things that you had to overcome, and what helped you overcome it?
Okay, so my hardest thing that I had to overcome was mental health. Because this game, when you're so passionate about something and you're throwing everything at the wall day in, day out, and there will be times where you're getting no results, you start questioning yourself, and your self-esteem starts to smash into pieces. And at these times and these moments, I started to produce a strong form of anxiety, to the point where I'd feel physical pins and needles all over my body, and I couldn't move. And the way I got through that was, funnily enough, so firstly, I went counseling, and that helped me a lot. It's really good to do that. But secondly, I was open about the stress I was going through, because at that time, what I realized was I was bottling a lot of it up. So I was open and very communicative about what was going on. Number 3 is trying to find the best balance you can get. So if I know I've done a mad 20-hour stint, the next day you better believe I'm having a nap in the middle of the day. Do you know what I mean? Sleep is so important. But one thing I found also was actually not worrying about what gets success and attention and what doesn't, but just going into the lab on my laptop and just making music for the sake of making music because I love it, yeah? And as soon as I've done that, anytime I ever felt anxious, if I open that laptop and I'm just making music because I love it and I have an idea, my anxiety dissipates. And that's what it's all about, I think. It's trying to take those pressures off yourself and doing it because you love it, not because, if I do this, this might blow up here, or that might blow up there. Get rid of that. Just do it because you love it. So yeah, that's that.
Oh, okay. My name's Alana, and I'm a creative program producer for Positive Youth Foundation. So this question is to anyone on the panel, but something that I'd really like to know, because you've all kind of done your individual things to get yourself where you are in your career. Is there anything that you wish youth organizations could have done more of that you think would have helped to aid you to kind of where you are today?
Yeah, well, recently I was part of a project with CVX where I had to work with family hubs across Coventry. And what I've learned from that is, when I went in the session and I've seen those kids, the passion in the room and how much they needed that, it was out of this world. Literally, after the session, I would almost cry because they don't have the opportunities, or the city isn't offering them enough for them to escape the world that they're in. And I feel like there should be some relationships built, you know, where these kids are being helped and being taken out of this world and show that they can be talented, that they can make changers for the city. Like one of the kids, you know, he was so talented on drums, but like he was being put down by his situation and his upbringing, you know, in where he's grown up. And, you know, when I talked to him, he told me, like, he never went out of his area. Like, that's insane for me. Like, for me, that I've traveled around the world and seeing so many different places, to see that someone that's 16 years old, he's never went out of his area. Like, to go in the city center in Coventry is mad for him. It's like, how do you get there, you know? So for something, to see something like this is, for me, is like, I can't even explain it. Like, I can't believe this is happening, you know? So I've tried to help these kids as much as I can, and I try to give them as much as I'd like. I literally put myself on the line and try to do as much as I can, but it's only what I've got given within that project, where they said, you know, you have 9 sessions with these kids, and that's it. So, you know, it's like, how do you carry on with that sort of legacy? Where are these kids gonna go afterwards? Like, how can we help them to become, you know, better people, and to show them a better way of showcasing their talents, and, you know, changing, to see that there's opportunities, and there's, you know, something that they can do that is not, you know, that is not just their world that they're living in. It's more than that. And, you know, that's something that I'm thinking of every day. And to see how much they need that, it's insane. Yeah.
How organizations can help people get opportunities? Was the question how organizations can help people get opportunities? I think there's like a really big issue still with the creative industries with like class and location. So like Coolie was saying about the whole London thing, a lot of people are saying, oh, you have to go to London to do this, or you have to go to the big cities, and like all the cool opportunities for like emerging people in the industry, it will be like, come live in London and work for us for free or minimum wage. And only like a certain kind of person can do that. I mean, I couldn't. I come from a working class background. I like couldn't even afford to live in Cov with my like mum and dad. Like, I couldn't even afford a meal deal. So like, they're reducing like the pool of like creatives that can join. So I think organizations and stuff need to really utilize, you know, remote working and all this. Like, the pandemic has shown us that we can do things over Zoom. Look at this today. We're speaking to people from all over the world. So I think opportunities should be open, and jobs should be a bit more digital, so people from all over the world can have an opportunity, rather than just rich people who have mummy and daddy paying for them to work for free in London for 2 years. It's just insane. So yeah, I think that's one thing that organizations and creative entities can do to help get people who are actually talented involved in the industry.
I think also going back to you, Lesley, on that question, because I know it was looking at youth organisations as well, and I know that like you've done like various different projects. Do you have any input on, you know, from a global perspective, or where you are and not just Coventry, how you think that youth organisations can do more?
Yeah, everything everybody has uttered so far is definitely applicable in the local context in which I'm most familiar, that's in Jamaica, in the Caribbean. I think the one thing I would want to add, I long to see leaders engaging youth in a more intentional way and allowing young people to lead, you know? We are preparing young people for a future that we can hardly imagine, and that they are way more equipped than, you know, 2-3 generations prior to even figure out how to navigate, you know, understand what are the issues and what are solutions to that issues. So I really want to see young people having more power to dictate how we proceed into a future that affects them more than it affects somebody 50, 60, 70 years old.
Thank you. And we're going to actually start wrapping up the session today. And it's gone by so fast. Like, that's an hour just gone, and I haven't even noticed. And thank you so much for the questions. And before we go, we've got a few things that I want to ask. So I want you all, panelists, to leave the audience with one word that might describe today or your career journey or how you're feeling or, you know, anything that you want to say. Just one word that describes it.
Consistency.
Persistence.
Relationships.
Network.
I think I would draw for peace. Protect your peace and your joy at all costs.
Thank you so much. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to you guys, the audience. A huge round of applause for yourselves. Go on. Because we're not a panelist without the audience that are coming to watch. And those of you who are watching online, that are watching the live stream, a huge thank you. And before we close out, we've got a video, I think, from some of the work that you've done, Lesley. So if we can put that on so we can all watch that video and see some of this work.
The society where you live in can demoralize your thinking. I mean, can make us feel as if we're nobody.
Enough people now they get to have talent now. Without the opportunity then can't get to show it.
Because good we want out of the ghetto, you know, not bad. Right. And where there is good, there is love. And where there is love, there is life.
That's it.
I wanna run over.
The idea was to give them something physical to do, to be able to express themselves, but also capture the truth. What we didn't expect and what we didn't plan for was that the journey that we would take would be a story in itself.
Like we became a unit, a very strange shout at each other, bust joke with each other unit, you know. You know, sometimes we're vexed, sometimes people have bad days, and we just have to just move right along and try and make them feel better.
We want to see go further from where he is now. Because you have hope. You go ahead, you get hope.
For me and for Squidly, I can tell you that it helped him in many different ways. So it is a good program. I know it was him is in front of me, but never knew him have so many friends. So if blood could make Squidly alive.
Like unlock some parts of me that I didn't know that I have the potential to do, like things.
People used to call me and say, I'm good for nothing, my work is and something. But through Run Free, I don't listen to what people have to say again. But I know something I can do it. I can do it.
I think everybody deserves these periodic reminders that you're awesome, you have superpowers, you are you, like nobody can be youer than you. I love that line in Dr. Seuss.
Most time it takes only an intervention, you know, any sort of intervention to just make that change. So Run Free was that type of intervention, kind of workshop.
Even the understanding of theatre outside of the physical space. That's a beautiful thing, especially for young men who may have never seen themselves being on any kind of stage, acting and dancing.
We see when we get the news, say, yo, we are going to Scotland, big change happened. And it was, you know, a story too. It's a 10-hour go in another country and come back. And this is it really going to happen. It feel good, man. We just go out there and just celebrate and shell it and just carry the same energy, but who now go dead it. It feels great.
I try to make it work, no matter how small it is. And we start together, so we finish together, same way. We never back down.
Wow. Thank you so much. So before we draw to a close, I'm going to introduce someone else briefly on stage as well, and also tell you all about some opportunities that are happening in the city and beyond that you can get connected in with, because of course the panel's all about creative careers and things we can get involved with, so this only seems right. So I want to introduce another international project that's been taking place between creatives in Coventry and those internationally. So I want to introduce Zainab Asini. So Zainab, can you come on stage if you're here? Yep, okay, Zainab's coming on stage, brilliant. So Zainab's been working with a local writer and speaker, Afikini Akanet, and young people from the Ivory Coast who have created something for the young people of Coventry. So Zainab, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Everyone on the panel. Yeah, I work with Nikki, who's a GP in Coventry. She's a local speaker and writer. I'm also a GP. I used to work in Coventry, but I now work in Kent. She set up a charity in 2008, which sought to go beyond just giving money and to actually encourage people to achieve more, sort of like what you were saying, to achieve much more than what they thought they could. Sort of help pay for their school fees, help fund schools. So that's kind of what we've been doing internationally. So we won the Changemakers Awards, and we were working with a group in Côte d'Ivoire. We went there a few weeks ago, and Nikki did what she normally does, and I was there with her, supporting her, which is talking to the young people and encouraging them and sort of funding what they need for education. And as she spoke to some of the youth at a local church, they felt inspired to make a painting within 2 hours of her talk. So I don't want to get their names wrong, so I've written it down. There were two of the youth called Degri Jean-Francois and Soman Herve, and they made a painting as a gift to the youth in Coventry from the youth in Côte d'Ivoire. Nikki will bring it. Sorry, unfortunately, I can't show you just right now. But yeah, we were really inspired by that, and it was probably the highlight of our trip, in addition to meeting all the young people. So I hope that's answered.
Yeah, thank you so much. And of course, are you going to be around during lunch, or are you going to be around for a little while? So if people want to find out more, they can come and speak to you. Brilliant. And will you guys be around for a little while, a couple of minutes here or there? Brilliant. So please come and have a chat to the panelists. And I'm going to do a few shout outs as well, and we're going to be doing some breakout activities during lunch. So we've got some amazing staff from Belgrade Theatre today. Do you want to put your hand up if you're here in the audience? Okay, amazing. So they're going to be, around, so please do connect in with them. They've got some projects on at the moment that I think they want to connect you in with. And also we're doing some immersive digital stories that are being produced by young people from both Coventry and Nairobi. So you'll be hearing about that in our next panel after lunch. And then outside, I've just seen it outside, you've got the Urban Jungle AR app. I think that's what's going on outside, and you can talk to Amrit Singh about that. And so he's actually back there, so if you turn around, if you're actually here physically with us, he's back there, so go and talk about that. And also Matilda Agase from Common Vision. Are you here, Matilda? Maybe outside, so Matilda's either here or outside, so is working on changing the narrative around our shared future. So a bunch of really cool people that are here, and also our panelists. I'm sure that you all do some amazing things as well, so talk to each other about it, get connected, network like what Dylan was saying as well, and call people up afterwards. So again, a huge thank you, a huge round of applause to our panelists, our speakers, and Lesley, who's gone. But thank you, Lesley, for waking up very early in the morning to speak to us. And have a great lunch, everybody. I've been Tam, your host.